The following podcast contains spoilers, adult language, and just a couple pinkos.
Don't believe everything you read.
This is a message from the Office of Emergency Preparedness. Due to the recent crisis, we ask that you remain in your homes. Do not attempt to communicate or interact with the creatures, even if they are people you know.
Lock your doors. Bar your windows. Evil is coming. It's time for Aim for the Head, a horror apocalypse entertainment podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Diana and Steve.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Aim for the Head podcast. I'm Diana.
And I'm Steve.
This week, we are thrilled to be back again discussing Season 2 of Fallout. This week, we will be discussing episode number 3. Title of the episode is The Profligate. Awe. So usually the way we roll is we discuss, details upon details upon details about the episode. But before we get into that, we do just like a quick hit. How did we feel about the episode? Or did we like it? Did we dislike it? I went first last week, so Steve, it's your turn. Profligate. What did you think of this episode as a whole?
I think it had a profound love of the Kaiser.
I think you mean Caesar. That's a Do you also have a dislike of the soft C?
I do not enjoy the linear progression of time, and I also do not follow the soft C. So yeah, I do. Okay.
Okay. All right. Seriously.
No, this episode was a lot of fun.
Yes.
From a gaming standpoint, it was really great because things like the Legion straight out of New Vegas, and I mean right down to like if you remember when Lucy, when she first gets captured, she walks up to that like wooden house or something, and the doorway has this sort of red, like it's like I don't know, it's not like a flag, it's like a banner, and it has like this golden bowl on it.
Yeah.
And that is like the symbol from the Legion.
Wow.
So yeah, it was. That was really fun, and obviously all the stuff, getting to see Thaddeus again and see what he's up to with his crazy schemes, and we got a I think really nice kind of mix of cutting between Max and the Ghoul and Lucy. Obviously there was no oh man, I'm blanking on his name. There was nothing back at the vault.
Yeah,
No Norm.
Norm.
Yeah, I was gonna say something else. I'm like, that's not his name. And we didn't get anything with Hank either doing the research.
Yeah.
But we did get a little flashbacky stuff with Coop,
Mm-hmm.
and but still, I think the mix was good. I think it did push the story a little bit. I think there's still kind of character building here. We the meat of it, like the plot of it, we're still kind of like, it's like they haven't gotten to New Vegas, right? You know what I mean? It's like they're still trying to get there for whatever reason. And so you're kind of like, come on, guys, there's only like 5 more, so let's go.
Let's go. We've only got so much more episode left,
Right, yeah. So, but at the same time, I thought it was a lot of fun, and there was definitely some interesting choices with Coop, and I think, like I said before, what my big wonder was, are we going to see Lucy change Coop to be more like her, or is Coop going to change Lucy to be more like him, in terms of positive, negative,
Right.
Glass half empty, half full.
Right.
And I think you're starting to see that maybe she is starting to awaken a little bit of humanity in him. And I know, this is blasphemy for my cold dead heart, but his cold dead heart maybe is starting to do like a Grinch kind of a thing, and is growing, three sizes bigger or something. Well, we'll have to see. Very little, right? It's not a lot, but there was definitely a little something where you're like, oh, maybe something is starting to awaken in him. So, but yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. There were a lot of great lines in this episode.
I feel like all my points are only like quotes. pretty much.
Right, and you know you could have done that, right?
Yeah.
You could have just done quotes, and it would have been great. So so overall, a lot of fun, and you know, I've been enjoying this show immensely, and not just from the video game love that it's still, you know, knocking it out of the park with, but just in the storytelling, and obviously the cast they have is really great. So what did you think?
I thought it was terrible.
Oh my God.
Jesus, I'm so sorry. No, I agree with everything you said. I'm sure at this point people are tired of hearing it, but I have no experience with the game whatsoever, so I'm coming at it from the, you know, it's kind of like how when we do movies that, you know, Steve has seen a jillion times and I've seen, you know, never. This is sort of a similar approach. You know, you have this extra level of experience by having played the game, same as when we were covering Last of Us. And I don't have that, but this is such a great, you know, and the same thing was true of Last of Us as well, is, you know, they've created such an immersive and, you know, atmosphere that we've never seen anything like this on television before, you know, which is one of the things I love about it. That's what makes, you know, shows through the years, you know, there was never anything that looked like Walking Dead before it came on, but also things like, you know, AMC did such a great job with some of those, like Preacher. There was nothing like Preacher on television. And look at The Boys. Like, there's nothing that looks like The Boys, or sounds like it at least. And this is along those same lines, you know. It's so different. It's such a different... I was trying to describe this to someone, and trying to describe it because it, you know, it does have its roots in like that 1950s sort of utopian mindset that, you know, the American dream kind of look of everything, but with the, you know, robot capabilities and stuff like that. So kind of like if, you know, Father Knows Best crossed with the Jetsons, if as it were. And then, you know, add in some, you know, apocalypse flavor. So the fact that it's such an odd mixture of genres it makes it so engaging to watch on so many levels. And the humor, like this episode to me was probably one of the funniest, you know, in quite some time. I can't think of one that I quoted quite as much as this in season 1. One thing's for sure though, Lucy and the ghoul together is just gold, you know. The things that come out of their mouths when they're together, and their, you know, reactions amongst each other, just fantastic. But yeah, like you said, casting is so great, the writing for these characters is so great, and yes, there is still some building. Yes, we will discuss the ghoul's cold dead heart and whether or not, you know, it did increase a little bit in size. It's possible. I did love in the previously on, I almost skipped the recap, and I'm so glad I didn't, because when it shows that clip of Thaddeus with the arrow, and he's like, Thaddeus,
oh man,
I think you're a ghoul, and he goes, oh no, like just the actor, like his way of verbalizing. So I literally, the show hadn't even started yet, and I was peeing my pants laughing. So yeah, this was hilarious. I've watched this episode I think over 3 times so far, and I'll you know, I might even watch it again before I get to episode 4. It's really just that good. So I'm excited to talk about it. I'm excited to laugh some more about some of these lines. They're just hilarious. So yeah, so let's move ahead and do that. Before we get into our details about the episode, let's first clear some space, like at least a couple of minutes of your time for us to discuss. We're going to talk about the writer and the director, and that'll take its own period of time. But the episode description, which usually, you know, we don't need to, you know, mark off a lot of space, but we might need to for this episode, much like the last 2. So Steve, you go ahead and you get everybody ready for, you know, this.
The long odyssey that is the episode description. Okay. It's I think we stumbled upon a theme though, because now it just seems that the episode writers are just randomly picking a line of dialogue from the episode. Make that the episode title, okay?
Sure. This describes the episode to a T.
Yes, yeah. So here we are. All right. So this again is the television show is Fallout. It's season 2, episode 3, and the title of it is The Profligate. And the episode description we have is most kids are dead by this age.
And listen, are they wrong? No.
No, they're not. No, I mean, and if that doesn't strike up like 50s Americana, I don't know what does.
Right, but I mean, it's it's giving polio. It's giving iron lung to me.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly.
Anyway, yes, very loquacious, very verbose,
yes.
Lots of words. Thank you.
Yes. Not only that, but they just talked a lot.
Yeah. Thanks, Amazon.
All right, so our writer and director, actually, it's a new writer and director this time around, so that's kind of interesting. And it's only one writer this time, as opposed to, sometimes we have a team writing. And we'll start with the writer. The writer this time is a person named Chaz Hawkins. Mm-hmm. So a little Stranger Things connection there,
look
people.
At that.
And Chaz is also actually the executive story editor for the show this season. So they're currently working on the show already in another capacity. So they are in charge of working on all the stories, but this one they wrote themselves. And not a lot of a past. This person's worked on a couple of shorts. A short called The Shadow of Snow and a short called The Passenger, and they're all within the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. And then they wrote a couple episodes of a television series called Quarantines, which I'm guessing is a teenager show, but I'm unfamiliar with it. But those were the top 3 most recent credits that they had on IMDb. So, but again, like I said, they're the executive story editor, much like the writer from last week was a story or script consultant writer as well. So okay. someone that worked on the show in the writing room already, and they just kind of said, "Here, you handle this episode yourself." And so
this one's yours. Go with it.
Right. Go off and write. Yeah. Write about kids and bottle caps. Off. Our director for this episode is a gal named Liz Friedlander. Mm-hmm. And she, again, almost every director that they bring in, seasoned pro, worked a lot. I think she's got over 50 directing credits in television in the last, since the beginning of the 2000s, the last, 15, 20 years. And she's directed episodes on shows like The Lincoln Lawyer, the Nathan Fillion show, The Rookie, The Boys. She directed an episode of The Boys. She directed episodes of Jessica Jones and American Horror Story. And so, just again, you can look her up. It's just a lot of stuff. I mean, definition working director,
Gotcha.
So, and she's great. I thought, she handled this episode really well. I think there's some that, obviously the comedy is great. And I think the way that they cut the episode together keeps the story moving.
Yes.
There are some fun edits in this, when they cut from one thing to another thing. And so, yeah, it's, I thought, again, professional, and she did a great job.
Yeah. Agreed. So, cold open of the show. The return of our pal, Thaddeus. Thaddeus the Ghoul, though.
Thaddeus the Ghoul,
So yep. He's no longer Thaddeus the Squire, but he is Thaddeus the Ghoul. And he had some really good lines in this opener, and we both included one of them, but I included one of the others where he's trying to rally the troops, and he's talking about what's good about working 22-hour days.
Well, he says we're only 12 hours into our shift. We got 10 more to go.
Yeah. we're only halfway there. But he makes this great comment, which I thought was fantastic about, and it harkens back to the Squire stuff, pokes a little fun at it too, where he's, he's talking about this life and he has now and these kids have now, and he says, no one ever wakes you up to do push-ups or carry around a really big bag all the time. So I love that they poked some more fun at the Squire bag, which we have, of course, in the past poked fun at as well.
Oh, yeah.
But his other quote is just fantastic. He just continues on and says, "If you can say as well."
Oh, sure. He goes, come on, what do we always say? And then all the kids chime in. They go, most kids are dead by this age. Which, again, surprise, surprise, episode description.
I know. I don't know. Did they know they were saying the episode description when they said it? I don't know.
I think, you know what? I would not put it past Liz Friedlander for her way to fire up the actors by saying, guys, because these are all kids too. You know, he's like, guys, gals, this is the episode description. And they went, oh, but it was adorable and very funny. And, you have, and I mean, what would you guess the age range is? I would say like 7 to 12, maybe.
Yeah. And maybe even a couple stragglers here and there that might even be a little bit younger, but yeah, that's the general consensus, all preteen. Old enough to stand up and push a broom, but young enough that they're not like adults. They still listen to a responsible adult.
If that is qualified.
Right,
yes.
right. He's a adult, so you've got to assume that all these kids are orphans or just abandoned or whatever.
Abandoned because they turn ghoul and their human parents are like, ick, get away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the whole concept was really interesting. I love the imagery of it's really like a sweatshop, and I love that they use the music, the Chain Gang, which was great. But it's all very bright and sunny, and he's so positive with them and
he is
counseling
the
kids.
You're not making me any money. What's the matter?
Yeah, and I love when he's trying to make the one girl feel better. He's like, "Aw, well, looking like a ghoul, which you don't." But that's not bad, and and he was trying to make her feel
Tommy
better.
over there, he looks like a ghoul. Yuck.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and just from a game standpoint, what's really interesting is he has gotten this Nuka-Cola plant running and is churning out new cases of Nuka-Cola, and they of course are just taking all the bottle caps off because bottle caps, that's the curse.
Busy, yeah.
Yeah, and so there's that one scene where you see them and they're taking the caps off, right? And then some girls and some of the kids have the bags full of the caps, but then there's another shot of and it's straight out of what you would normally see in a movie about drug dealers where they're dumping all these caps rather than money, and they're putting them in the money counters and stuff, and it's like the whole accounting room where they're just counting all the bottle caps and stuff. And they're all bottle caps, but yeah, well, it was super funny. And at one point, when he's trying to fire up the troops and make them feel better, he's like, "Look, we got a roof over our head, we have a well-defended perimeter." And the kid goes, "Do we have any fresh water?" And he's like, "Just drink the soda."
And it's funny because when I watched it the second time through, I was like, I caught him saying the thing about the well-defended perimeter, and I was like, "Huh." That's interesting, but then I realized later on the robot that they have that defends their perimeter, and to be fair, did a really good job of defending their perimeter. So
he tried, he certainly was shooting at Max and the guy from the Commonwealth, Xander. They were, they did his best, but no cigar.
Yeah, but I think soldiers from the Brotherhood is one thing, but I think the average person who just stumbled upon or tried to steal from them or whatever, that robot would have made easy work of any of the other freaks you see that are trying to take over this, that, and the other plant or whatever.
Right.
So
sure.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
Loved it. Loved that whole cold open. And then it's great because they're in the bottling factory, and then it's funny, the first time I watched the episode, I must have looked away for a hot second, and I missed the title card, which is just Fallout listed on the back of a bottle cap. and it's
Mm-hmm.
and it's like sort of the animation of it is it's flipping toward you, like someone
Yes.
flips the bottle cap off. And I thought that was really, really well done. It was a nice, interesting, and like new way to look at the title. So
Yeah.
it was nice.
Well,
to
and
see.
then they also, if you have the if you have the sound up, you can hear it, but then the closed caption tells you too. When it smashes to black, you first get the sound of the bottle cap being pulled off of the bottle. You get the
Oh, cool.
you know that sound it makes, right, when the suction is released and all that.
Nice.
Yeah. And then you're right. And I think you even hear a little of the fizz of the carbonation and as the bottle cap is tumbling towards the screen. But yeah, I thought it was really fun. And again, it's like you said, it's a kind of a neat way to just sort of tie that whole opening scene together and say, yep, there we go.
Yes.
And so yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We come away from the cold open to Lucy and the other what's the name of the group? The one that's in the
he said he called the ghoul referred to
Just
them
the
as
Tunics.
the Tunics, and I don't know if that's like an official name or if that's like maybe just like a slur that he has for them, but yeah,
That's true.
it's the girl that they rescued, or she rescued from the hospital from the scorpions from last week. Yeah.
So they're being brought to, how we left it last week was they were happened upon by what looked like a group of soldiers.
Roman.
They were
soldiers.
dressed very, very, very Roman, and and they're being brought to this camp and being brought to, people in power. But it was sort of an interesting turn of events. It was first the girl, she's killed right away because they said, you're without your legionary. So was that
must have been the guy that she was with? Yeah, that he died, and once he died, like whatever her role was, maybe she's supposed to be kind of like what Thaddeus and Max were, kind of like a squire, but like the Roman equivalent of it or something. And
right.
And the fact that her charge, her job is to make sure that guy makes it. And the fact that he's dead, well, then I'm sorry, you lose.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, they like whack her head off and stick it on a pike, like right in front of Lucy. Lucy's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, she's like trying to talk to them. She's like, sirs, and I see that, you're running a
and you hear like people like being tortured, and you see like the guy getting his like teeth ripped out front and stuff.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and she's like, so it looks like you're running a work camp.
Yeah. Insert least inflammatory thing I can say without angering those people. And it's great because it's a typical Lucy scene where she is trying to do the whole like I'm nice, but she's also like correcting them. Like the moment when I'm not sure we get a character name, but Macaulay Culkin, Culkin, when he says we're bringing you to the Kaiser, and she's like,
don't you mean
Kaiser? Do you mean Caesar? Because you guys look kind of. You put the quote there. You've got it word for word.
Yeah. She goes, I believe the Kaisers were German. And we have to remember, she's been, educated in the vault. So, she
knows all about history.
So she would be able to call them on this. And he goes, I believe the Kaisers were German, and you guys have more of a Roman theme. So I think it's Caesar. And Macaulay Culkin is just sort of like, what?
I love that even in that moment, she knows like it's not looking good because there's torture happening all around her, and she tries to glass is always half full for Lucy, so she's always gonna try always look on the bright side of life. But she realizes in the situation it's not. There's a little bit of direness here, it at least surrounds her, and it makes her be cautious with the whole work camp thing, but she just can't help herself and just be like, listen, I know history and you have this work.
You are not doing this right.
You're saying it right. Yeah. Yeah, you are doing exactly what, it's like Showgirls with Versace,
Yeah.
You've never heard it said, you've only seen it written, so these guys saw Kaiser's palace and they're like, yeah, that's how it's said, is Kaiser, because what else would you would, if you had never heard it said out loud and you saw the word Caesar written out, how would you think it was said?
Right.
And of course, none of these people have studied history or studied any kind of, any book learning. They weren't sent to school when they were kids, probably. And Lucy was. So, like, all they know is the word. And they've been saying it wrong for generations,
Yeah.
probably.
And they're just like, who's going to correct us?
Yeah, exactly.
She will, apparently.
The best, I did love, like, for the Macaulay Culkin stuff, I did love, first of all, that I listened to a podcast 2 days before I watched this episode with him, and they talked on the podcast about how I think it was Smartless, and I think they talked about how he had a role on Fallout, which I'm not sure I knew. Like I tried to not connect myself with any of the promos for Fallout because I didn't want to be spoiled in any way. So they may have announced the Macaulay Culkin thing, and if they did, I was trying really hard not to pay attention to that. So I heard his interview, and I was like, oh, he's going to show up. And he literally shows up in the next episode. Which, I know that happens on purpose. They record those interviews 2 months ago, and then the PR person is like, yeah, you might want to release that this week. Yeah. He might be on Fallout this week, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But I already knew that he was coming. I knew that it was happening. And then to have the moment happen when he like takes off the masks and he turns around, there was like a music change, right? And it's like, he's nobody. He's just like a lower sort of like general or something like that. He's not in charge. He still reports to somebody else kind of thing, but the music swell that they had when he like turns around, and if you look at him closely, he's making kind of a derpy face.
The whole
to
episode
the
he's making a derpy face.
Like, I'm not sure that his character was, smart in any way. But I just love the airs that he put on, like these like fake, the Awe Profligate, it's all very like, he'd be drinking tea with his pinky out if he could. You know what I mean? And it's all show, it's all surface, and just stupidity, and finding out about the fact that they have literally, they're fighting with their own people because of a slip of paper in the pocket of a dead body that's in between them. And I'm like, okay, so wouldn't you just send someone up there who's not one of your people? They're like, they keep shooting at us. I'm like, okay, well then send someone up who's not one of your people and just be like, hey, if you can go up and get that piece of paper and come back down and give it to us, we'll let you go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No, I'm not saying it's a fault of the storytelling. I'm saying like that just shows, like, if I can come up with an idea on how to fix this situation, it shows how stupid these people are.
First of all, I mean, the whole setup of the Legion is just taken verbatim from the game. Yeah. Really? I mean, everything that you see, everything that he says, it's all in New Vegas, and I mean, the story he says is absolutely correct, that the founder of the Legion, the first Caesar, he dies, and he has in his like armor, he has a handwritten note where he names a successor. And the only thing I think that's different is that if I'm remembering right, in the video game, there's more than 2 factions that are fighting, but because like everybody, like, there's like 3 or 4 people that are like, well, I should be Caesar. I'm the guy. All these other guys, screw them. I'm more important. He would have picked me. And so none of them will let any of the other ones get the note because then it's official, And so, but again, it's stupid, like you said.
Oh, God,
and I mean, literally they are like, there's like this hill that separates all of it. Like they're all like encamped around this hill, and they're all like fighting, preventing any of the other ones from running up there and looking at the note. Right, that's a big chunk of the lore from the Legion from the game. So they got that exactly right. And it is. You're like, you guys are like just dumb.
Yeah.
Just go figure out who it is and move on, right? And they, like he
Yeah.
says, they're at war with the New California Republic. They're at war with this other group called the Khans.
Yep.
Khan, which
Yeah.
which we kind of met already, right? With the
Yeah, then in the first
yeah,
episode they had him.
and
Yeah.
and then he also says they're at war with the Brotherhood. So they're kind of like involved in multiple conflicts, and at the same time they
Yeah.
got this really stupid civil war going on. Where you're like, guys, just solve it, okay? Solve it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was straight out of the game, which I thought again was super cool, and I'm so far I've really enjoyed like what they're pulling from the New Vegas game and bringing forward
Right.
into this. I'm so far it's been great. It's been really well thought out, and they're doing it really cool. So it gives me a lot of hope for, it's like, wow, because like you would imagine in a video game like this, there's got to be like 30 quests, campaigns in New Vegas.
Yeah.
So that's 30 different stories, 30 different groups of people, set up situations. So they got a lot to choose from of what they want to pull. And
Right.
so far what they've done so far has been great. So I've been really enjoying it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad. It's great because like they're close to Vegas, but they're not in Vegas yet. But I got this feeling like, we're connecting them with LA, and not them, I mean the story. The story connects with LA and California a lot with Coop because of the movies and Hollywood and whatever, and we also know, that they were on the California coast, yada yada. But now as they travel and they're getting closer to Vegas, it's more desert, whatever. So I feel like the outfits that they're wearing are from some crappy Reno casino called Kaiser's.
It could be Kaiser's Palace.
That's where they got all the costumes from.
Kaiser's Palace.
Yeah, Palace, right? And I love that it's like, those costumes were probably fantastic, 150 years ago, but they've worn out over time and they've had to piece it together. So I love that. First of all, I love that half of them are wearing sunglasses. Oh, yeah. It makes them look like absolute dopes. Yeah. You know what I mean? They look so bro-y. It's fantastic. But also like the little bits and pieces here, like there was one guy that instead of wearing like a Roman helmet, he had on like a motorcycle helmet, like a crash helmet in the background. And there's a couple other people that are wearing like little like dribs and drabs that don't make, one guy on their group, he was wearing sunglasses, he had a mohawk. Yeah. And I was like, this is interesting. So the fact that they are like Lucy said, Roman soldier is their theme, but they're not really like soldiers. They're like people who took costumes and they took those sensibilities, those Roman sensibilities, and they've sort of painted them on themselves in a way. But it's just, oh my God, it's just so funny to look at. And they're just, it's the dimness of them that makes them so fun to watch. And then the connection to when the girl was like, I don't want to see you raped by the wrong people. And then he's like, hush now, we're negotiating your prima noctis.
And she's like, well, that's just rude.
And anyone who's watched Braveheart understands what this is. So clearly, and if you don't, it's basically the Lord is allowed to have sex with if there's an underling that gets married, like a serf or a peasant that gets married, the lord of that region would have the right to have sex with the woman on the first night because technically she's his property. Yeah.
He gets to deflower her, and then it's
prima noctis.
It's his right.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's his right as the Lord, and
of course. And prima noctis is the the Latin for it literally translates into first night.
First night.
So first night privileges,
right.
as it were. And there's a whole thing in Braveheart about that.
And
so,
that's the whole story in motion, really.
Yes, as
yeah.
it were. Yes, it sure does. So in this case, it's funny that, that gal brought up the thing about being raped, and the first thing that they're going to talk about is they're like, "Oh, hush, don't talk yet. We're trying to settle out your prima noctas." And Julie and Lucy is like, let's talk about how terrible that is. And she goes off on this tangent, this tear about how awful it is, and that's more of a medieval
that's what she
thing,
says. It was just by a bunch of people that stole a Latin word, a phrase, and they were horrible people and yucky. And she's like, and I think, you know what, we've established a line and we're not going to go past it.
Yeah. And I love it. She's like, and by the way, she's like, and I'm not even a virgin. And that's not even including all of the cousin stuff I did, which takes up at least a page or two on my resume. So,
right.
And it's funny because they don't even really say anything. They just sit there and look at her because they're like, we have never in our lives come across a creature like you. No. Lucy is definitely a unicorn, that is for sure.
I love it, though, because she's like, so... you guys have no other choice but to let me go. And then literally it smash cuts and she's, crucified. And she's like, oh, crap.
Yeah, this did not work out the way I thought it would. And I know she, like I said, she is the glass half full gal. She's really good at it. But she just even is like, oh man, I saw this going differently.
Well, and then that's just where he explains, because she asks like what's going on, and Macaulay takes the time to like tell her, that, oh yeah, the guys over there were in the middle of fighting a civil war, and the whole thing about the note and who's the real heir and everything. And she's like, I'm really good at conflict management. I'd be happy. And he's just like, all right, we're leaving, And so, and then I wrote this line down because then she gets really angry, or as angry as Lucy can get, really. And she's like, speaking as someone who has seen upwards of 15 different movies, if you think everyone else is the bad guy, chances are you're the bad guy.
And she's not wrong. It's literally like, if everyone else is an asshole, you might be the asshole. Kind of thing. And it's she's not wrong. She's totally right in that instance. She's just like, at this point, you're up on the cross. I don't think you're getting down with those powers of persuasion.
Yes. I was going to say, yes, I agree. Although I do think, she got really lucky that they decided to not get out the hammer and the nails.
Yes. She was not nailed. She was tied to the cross, thankfully.
So, lucky for her, yes.
Yeah, she's the lucky one for
sure. And actually, I for me, with that line, what I always go to is Matt Damon made a movie called Rounders about playing cards, about poker. And at the very beginning of the movie, I think John Malkovich, at one point says, if you sit down at the table and you're trying to figure out who the sucker is, and if after 15 minutes you can't, chances are you're the sucker. Yeah. And so, but anyway, still a fun line. And she kind of has this little, because Macaulay Culkin does kind of turn and basically, because she talks about good and bad, and he's like, this is Rome, and she's like, no, this is America, and he's like, at least on the maps it is, and he's like, written by dead people, and so every argument that she tries to make, he has a counter of, look, good and bad is irrelevant. The only thing that matters is power. Then
which is a great quote.
And then off he goes, and then she's like, oh crap.
Yeah, I'm stuck up here, and it's like you look to the left and there's another guy there, and he's getting his head like pecked in by a crow. So that's doesn't bode well for the future for
something
her,
to look forward to, a pet.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh. We cut from Lucy to the consequences of her actions, which is Coop still stuck at that hospital, and still with like the poison stinger, was he was poked by that scorpion. So now, he doesn't have a stim pack to sort of do his, like, do the instant get well better or whatever.
Get better well.
But get better well, whatever, however you word
It's no big
that.
whoop.
Yeah. And so, so he instead has to employ a different method, which is disgusting to watch and listen to. Hello, squelchy. But the only effective way for him now is he literally just has to cut out the affected part of the body. Which makes sense in the ghoul sense, because it's not like he has the normal functioning body of, like, he doesn't bleed the way others do. Like, he can get shot, it'll go right through him. But in this instance, I think the poison is a different thing. It actually does affect all that tissue around him, and he can feel the pain of it because it stays. And it doesn't, and he doesn't have anything to, fix it. He's got all those other things that he can do to sort of fix anytime he gets like shot in the shoulder or whatever. But in this instance, he can't do that. So he literally sits there and has this fantastic monologue with Dogmeat sitting next to him. And the entire time he is like using his knife and cutting all the skin around the one area and pops it out.
And it's green and pussy and ugh.
Oh, gross. Yeah, and in the moment when he's like in there and cutting, and you see he tries to grab that piece of flesh to pull it out, and when he squeezes, the pus comes out, and you're like,
oh yeah, gross. It's awesome.
It was great.
It's awesome. Great.
It was so great. Very toxic Avenger. And then he tosses the little piece of meat that he just cut out, and there was a moment where I was like, they kind of missed a comedic moment there. Dogmeat's been listening this whole time to his story, and so he tosses the little piece of flesh. It would have been hilarious if Dogmeat had like started to walk over, and for him to be like, no, you can't eat that. Because he can't. He really can't have that piece of meat. But he sits there and he tells this really great story, which you wrote like the tail end of it. He was, sort of feeling a certain way. He's starting to feel like regrets and things, and he's talking to Dogmeat, and he's got this great line at the end of it, which you included in your notes. So let's chat a little bit about that.
Well, because I to me this was sort of like Exhibit A of, maybe Ghoul Coop is starting to warm a little bit and starting to actually have a little bit of concern. Because if you remember in season 1, the ghoul is not fond of the dog at all, and actually tells Dogmeat and says, look, you know what? I had a dog and you ain't it. It's not the same. It basically says, look, I'm not interested, right? Because the dog's like, hey, love me, because it's a dog, and he's just like, nope, keep your story walking, kid, because I don't want any of it. I'm not buying,
Yeah.
And
exactly.
And so he's sort of like, I think he's part of the reason he's talking is just to kind of get his mind off of the fact that he's literally like digging out, I don't know, like a good, full teaspoon full of meat from his thigh.
Yes.
And so he talks about like, when is a boat not a boat, and that's, if you take out a bit of it, it's just got a hole in it, and if you take out a whole bunch, then it's not a boat, it's just a bunch of planks. And and of course he's doing it as he's like, basically he pulls out this like curved like carpet knife and is like slicing it in, and then like I said, they show it, and it, like you said, it's like green and pussy, and it's icky, and he's and the sound design is just gorgeous with all
it's so on
all
point.
the slurping and squelching and and he's like digging around and he's scooping it out, and he's as he's talking, he clearly is in intense pain, right? He can't die, but he can certainly feel the pain of all these wounds. Yes. And so he's talking, and so finally he gets the bit out of it, and he looks at it, and I don't know about you, but my first thought was, is he gonna eat that?
I did have that thought too. I did, and that's when when he flung it, I was like, is
Yeah,
Dogmeat
right.
gonna
Because
eat
Dogmeat
it
kind
too?
of looked at it like, "Oh, is that food?" And then, yeah, but
Yeah.
he was like right above like a swimming pool or something, and he kind of
Yes.
tossed it
Yes.
back in there. And it's great because in the closed captioning, you hear like they put on their splat to indicate that it like hit the ground, which I thought was really lovely. Uh, and so anyway, he tells this whole thing about the boat and the planks, and if you take out enough holes from the boat, it's no longer a boat. And I guess we're supposed to take from that is like, look, he's just creating a little hole in his leg, and he's still him. He just has a hole in his
Yeah.
leg, and that whole thing. And as long as he doesn't get like a whole bunch of holes, he'll be fine. And anyway, then when he finally gets it out and he tosses it away, he then looks over at Dogmeat and goes, he goes, I don't know why I'm telling you all this for. I know you already know all this. And then he like starts like petting the dog, and it's like
Yeah.
scratching his head and his chin and everything. And the dog is just loving it because it's a dog. And
Of
and
course.
then he goes, it's just been a while since I had someone worth talking to. And for him to say, I mean,
Aww.
that's as mushy as we've seen the ghoul get ever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah, that was just a great scene, and like we said, like it's got to be Lucy, right? It's got to be her, like kind of rubbing off on him with her,
Yes.
plucky, everybody has good in them kind of thing, and maybe the comments she made in last week's episode where she's like, hey, like you got to be like a better person because you want your family to like you when you finally come
Yes.
across them, right? Which
Yes.
I'm sure up until this point he had never considered because the chances of him actually finding his family were so astronomically remote that it's like, why
Right.
bother? I don't have to change because it ain't
Yes.
going to happen. And now he's sort of thinking, he's like finally confronting this idea of like, you know what, this might actually happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
It's true.
But anyway, what did you think? Did you sense that as well, or am I just seeing stuff?
I think, yeah, I think Dogmeat is definitely the first portal into he's
Mm-hmm.
changing. Whether or not he embraces, positivity or whatever, just on the surface, even if he's an absolute dick and an asshole the rest of the season, he has exhibited that he cares about Dogmeat and that Dogmeat is a dog worth talking
Yeah.
to, which he didn't feel,
No.
a few episodes back. So that in and of itself has changed him, and we'll see how it goes from there. He even says to Dogmeat later, he talks to him some more. He's like, I don't like her either, but we're gonna need her down the road.
Yeah. That,
So I think he's looking at Dogmeat as this another version of like being able to do the whole like talking to your conscience,
yeah.
So I'm curious to see how that relationship progresses, and I really hope, I have no idea based on no game knowledge, but I really, really hope Dogmeat stays around for a little bit.
Yeah, I do too. Well, I wonder if will we see if Dogmeat becomes in danger, when someone or something is, potentially going to harm or kill Dogmeat, will he be like, I don't think so, that's my dog, that,
Yeah.
or is he going to revert to, whatever, the dog's fine,
It's just a dog.
I didn't,
Yeah.
didn't.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not my dog. That's just a
right.
dog.
It was here and now it's not. I'm fine. So we'll have to see. But yeah, I thought that was a really, really, really fun scene of Ghoul Coop. And then I think don't they go to the flashback? Isn't that the next thing?
They do.
Yeah.
They do, which is interesting because like to pivot from him sort of, I mean, taking in the stuff that Lucy said, like you were saying about, your family and and all of that, and actually giving of yourself to this dog again when you were expressly against it, and then sort of putting it against this story that we get And there's two prongs to the story. Him um there's him being at his house, and clearly it's, we're getting towards, close to when the bombs are going to go off, and his wife is upset because she can't get all of their daughter's things. The teddy bear won't fit in the keepsake box or whatever,
and she hates to leave anything behind.
And she's so upset by the whole thing. And it's one of those moments where it's like more is being said than what's being said. And Coop is like, yeah, but we may not need it at all.
Yeah, and she
because
she's like,
if you didn't know, you would just think, oh, they're negotiating a peace, or they're trying, and if they fail, we'll have nuclear war. But of course, Barb knows differently. So she knows that it's absolutely happening.
It's inevitable.
She knows it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he is still acting like he doesn't know, and he's like, well, we may not even need this. And she catches herself. So in that moment, and he sees her make that adjustment, she does it in real time with like, oh yeah, you are right. We may not, and he knows what he did there. So it was sort of like a last nail in the coffin for like, I got to do something here. I don't know what it is yet, but I got to do something. And he leaves to go to this event for his friend.
For Charlie.
Yes, for Charlie. And it's a little ceremony honoring him. It's like a veterans, it's a war veterans.
It's an American Legion thing.
Yeah. And there's this great moment too, again, more comedy, where the event is being sort of emceed by the local congressperson, and she is so ridiculously bad. Like she's just like, so she talks like this, and she has no real personality. She's just not a good politician.
Well, but then I love it. She goes, you might not be familiar with me because I'm the only sitting representative in government that does not have a corporate sponsor.
Right. And you're like, gee, I wonder why that is. But there's this great moment where she's like trying to, be the MC and continue on. And she's like, our first honoree of the day, his story's great. And it's like, and the name is, and she doesn't even know it. So she hasn't looked at the notes. So she goes to look at her notes, and like the note cards fall, and she just looks like such a doofus. And she's like, the story's wonderful if I can just find my notes, and they're on the floor, and she's trying to pick them up, and it's just ridiculousness. It just, and it's this metaphor for how bumbling the government is at this time. It just, and yes, she's like, I'm the only one that doesn't have corporate, backing, but it's also, they're trying to say like the government can't even do this right. So how are they going to save all of the citizens,
And then the other thing too is that Coop is talking to Charlie, and he's basically saying that, the Moldiver has given him a new mission, and it's not to spy. And he's like Robert House. He's like, and Charlie kind of says that, their intel, as he talks about it, because it's like blueprints and like phone records and stuff, but they've determined that House is building like a weapon system in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And so he's, Charlie is not like, oh my God, that's horrible. How could they ask you to do that? Charlie's like, yeah, you might have to. And points out that like, look, everybody in this room, all the men in this room anyway, have probably killed at least one person, because they're all veterans. They're all people that fought, in the wars, and he's like, and as well as I do that the guys on the other side, they were, told the same crap that we were, and they were just trying to get through it, and they had to do horrible things, and so sometimes you had, what I mean? And so he's sort of, he's not, I think Coop was sort of like, get a load of this. They want me to
Yeah.
do this crazy thing and kill this like billionaire guy. And he was really kind of expecting Charlie to be like, man, that's awful.
Yes.
And Charlie's kind of like,
Yeah.
I don't know, man, I think you should. And so
Yeah. I think that was the big. I don't want to say it was a disconnect. I think that's the moment where like this scene with Charlie's ceremony is so pivotal to show how Coop comes around to whatever eventuality he's going to come around to. We're not sure yet because we haven't gotten there yet in the back timeline. But just you're totally right. His expectation in the moment was to get Charlie to be like, "Oh, well, that's a bridge too far," and Charlie's kind of like, "Yeah, I mean, sometimes you gotta, do something bold for it, for there to be any kind of outcome." And I think Coop is really taken aback by that, and really there's a lot of introspection and thinking that's happening with Coop in this whole episode, and it's great because he gets that eye-opening moment with Charlie. He has the moment in the bathroom with Robert House.
Yeah.
Which I want to talk about.
I do too, because I mean, let's just jump right there. Let me just ask you.
Yeah.
Did you get the sense that Coop knew who he was?
I'm so confused by that scene.
I am too.
Because because here's the thing. He has been labeled by others as the richest man in America. So you've got to assume he's like a Bill Gates.
He's like a Trump type of a guy.
Yeah, Elon Musk, whatever. Most people know what those people look like. So I'm like, how are you able to... And here's the thing. Maybe he is like, maybe he does like fly under the radar, because there was that moment in the first episode where he's literally sitting right there, and the guys at the bar
would you like his
know
biggest
who he
fan?
was.
Yeah. It was so weird because I get a very strong like Howard Hughes sense from him.
Yes.
And clearly Howard Hughes back in the 50s, well, he was a huge celebrity and was in the news constantly, with all of his crazy projects and, buildings and things that he was doing with his money. And so clearly was like a celebrity in his own way, right? And had name recognition, obviously, but also had like face recognition, in that if he went out in public, people would be like, oh my God, that's Howard Hughes, and yet now we've seen two instances where people know who he is, but they don't know that that's him, because I certainly got the sense that Coop did not know that was Robert House, because if he did, don't you think he'd be like, oh crap, they're onto us?
Yeah, and that's I think that scene would have gone differently. There was a certain confidence to Coop that I don't think he would have had if he knew that that's who that was. I think he's very suspect of that moment that happened there, because you can see him reacting to like the pinko lines. It's almost like he feels like this guy's a plant to get him to react. And he's also used to it as an actor. Like, is this a reporter undercover who's trying to get him to say the wrong thing?
Right.
And he's not going to get pulled into something like that. He's too smart. And in that moment, like, it definitely confused me. But by the second or third time I watched it, I was like, I don't think this guy is very public. I think he's very private, and people don't know what he looks like. Otherwise, how would he be able to get away with what's happening here? He's the most famous man in America, and he's in a bathroom stall in the American Legion in Glendale, California.
Yeah.
Like, how is that possible?
I'm thinking we're going to eventually we're going to get the reveal that like like you said, he's flying under the radar. Maybe he has hired someone to pretend to be him in public,
That'd be
so like,
interesting.
and he looks completely different, you know what I mean? And so it's sort of like it gives him that anonymity to basically go out in public and not have to worry about being mobbed and or killed or whatever, and all
Yeah.
those kind of things. Because I'm the same with you. I watched this episode 3 times, mostly
Hmm.
because it's hilarious and there are just
It
so many
is.
great
It's a great
great comedic
episode.
moments in it. But every time I get to that scene, I'm just like, I can't. It really looks to me like Coop does not know who he is, and that is just,
Yes.
I think, just like you, I'm having a really hard time going, how do you not know who that is?
Yes.
And just I hope they explain it, because it's certainly, it's bothering. Obviously both of us are like, wait a minute. You know what I mean?
What are you
Yeah,
doing?
because it's just like, Coop, kill him right now. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
mean,
no
just
kidding.
go get one of the toilet lids and beat his brains in, and then you've done your
Yeah,
job
no
and it's
kidding.
over.
End of
Yeah,
story.
totally. The series ends in 3 episodes. But yeah, that I mean, I really liked that scene. I liked how, he, you're right that House is kind of picking at him with, oh, your
Mm,
friend, yeah, Charlie, he's a war hero, a bit of a pinko.
yeah.
And then and you're right, like it's almost like Coop has like the rehearsed answer, where he's like, well,
Mm,
I wouldn't know anything about that, and
yes.
then he's like, you're Coop Howard, war veteran, star of the silver screen, and maybe a bit of a pinko yourself, and he's just like,
Yeah.
don't believe everything you read, and then you're right, he's very confident and sort of like, like, who are, you're nobody, I could beat the snot out of you right now, no, like, not
Mm,
afraid at all of any repercussions of if he were to like get in that guy's face. Right. And
absolutely.
this is
Yeah.
like, literally, wouldn't you agree that the way they're presenting Robert House, he kind of is like the richest guy on the planet? Yeah, so,
Yes.
I don't think you would have that attitude to the richest guy on the planet in real life, right? Yeah,
Nope.
because again, the guy's gonna crush you, Um, and so, but then he does, and then, he did the whole great line of like, you never served, or you're not a vet, and he's like, what gave me away, and he has that great line about like, a vet knows you don't talk about politics when a man has his, member in his hand. and,
Yep.
and then he sort of like, he's like wiping his hands off, and he like very forcefully throws the paper towel into the garbage and just strides past him, like, get the F away from me, and
Yeah.
again, it's a great scene, but I just was so puzzled by it, because I'm like, okay, you don't know who he is, but you've been told you need to kill him, so how is this gonna work? You know what I mean? It's just like, really, none of you got, I don't know. It needs to be explained, is my I think my thought right now.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those things where it's like I almost wish that there'd been a tiny explanation in like the first episode, like some kind of offhand comment. And I say this a lot. I feel like, well, there's lots of TV shows like if you just throw a well-placed
Hmm.
one-liner to clear up confusion, all they would have had to say is something along the lines of, it even could have been hilarious if Robert House had said it. If they'd been like, "Oh, you're his biggest fan," he'd be like, "How could I be his fan? I mean, you heard word on the street. Nobody even knows what the man looks
Yeah, right.
like."
He could
Like
be
something like
standing in this
that.
bar right now.
Right in a spot, and you wouldn't even know
Yeah,
it. Like that would have been hilarious and would have explained the
yeah.
situation.
Or
I mean, it's leaning in that direction, but until we get confirmation, it's still gonna make any kind of scene we see with Coop and him weird and awkward. And I'm curious if it's gonna lead to like, is there gonna be a moment down the road where he's like about to like, you know, shoot Robert House and is like, which one's Robert House? And they'll be like, dude, it's him right there. And it'll be like, then it'll
what?
dawn on him, I've already met this
Oh no, yeah.
guy,
But and maybe
like dun
and
dun
maybe
dun.
that's the tip off of, oh my God, they're like 5 steps ahead of us this whole time.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you're right. Like when Moldaver told him, what she wanted him to do, he certainly could have had a line like, "Oh, really? You want me to kill like a guy that no one even knows what he looks like, or like the biggest recluse in the world that no one has seen since he was 9, or some line like that,
Yeah.
something, some kind of throwaway line like that that would give all of us the added info of, oh, okay, right. Nobody really knows what this guy looks like because he's
Yeah.
under the radar. That would have made a lot. It would have helped, I think, a lot, because yeah, that it was a great scene. I was just sort of very confused by does he know, does he not know, and if he
Yeah.
knows, why is he not freaking out more that guy, the guy that he was just assigned to basically whack, is now like following him? I mean, is that not like a
Yeah.
huge red flag? So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely. I think since we're already there, let's talk. It's a little out of sequence, but let's talk about the Charlie
yeah.
scene. When he's accepting the award and he's talking, and um, I like I said, this is like you can see it turn in Coop's mind. You can see him making decisions about what he's going to be doing next. But I can also see it affecting who he is in the current timeline, that he's, you have to assume, because it does the dissolve between him being handed the
Mm-hmm.
lighter in the flashback to him holding it in real
Yep.
time, and that has like an effect on him about making the right choice. And sometimes a stupid decision is the right one if it saves someone. And it makes me curious to see what he's going to end up doing. Is he going to try and kill Robert House, or is he going to make some sort of big scene, and try and tell Barb he knows what's going to happen. Like what's going to
Right.
happen, what's he going to do with the information he
Yeah.
has.
Yeah.
um but you can see him like, and it's almost, Charlie's pretty much telling him, you know you it's not always about, people celebrate the hero, but they never celebrate how they got
Yeah.
there, the shit they had to do to get there. So it's, he's basically saying, I understand you may not realize it now, but you may need to do this crappy thing to be able to get the good outcome that you're trying really hard to get. And it's a really interesting scene. You included a really good line from Charlie, so let's chat about that too.
Yeah. Yeah. He, Charlie's like basically receiving this lighter and this recognition because we find out he like saved Coop's life in the war. And
Yes, which is interesting to find
yeah,
out.
and he's like retelling the story, and he is up, basically up at the podium talking, and and
Yep.
and um
Yep.
and it's funny because he's clearly addressing the whole crowd, but he's really just talking to Coop, like you said.
Oh, for
He's
sure. For
you know,
sure.
and I don't think he says it when he's up there, but later on he does have a line where he's like, it's funny they're giving me this award for saving a man's life, but they are leaving out the fact that I had to kill 3 men to do it. Which
Yep.
again, great line, great line.
Yes.
And that is usually the way when war heroes are honored. It's sort of like, his actions, saved the lives of, all of his squad mates or something, right? But it's like, yeah, but his actions probably killed like 20 enemy soldiers too. Yeah. So it's like
Yeah,
you saved
exactly.
some, but you also scratched some too. But he's telling the story, and he rescues Coop, and when he looks at him, and he what was the first thing Coop said, and he's like, do you remember, Coop? And he's like, I don't know, how do I look? And everybody kind of laughs, and he's like, no, you asked, how are the rest of the guys? And so even though you were wounded and severely burned or whatever he said, your first thought was for your squad mates. And he's like, Forkin Marines, right? And
Yeah.
and then he goes on to say, at the end of the day, we just got to hope that we bet on the right side, the side that protects the people you love. Because if it did, I guess that's worth doing pretty much anything, even something bad. And you're right. I mean, Coop is he's drinking it all in, and you can tell that the little hamster in his head is running on that wheel, and he is
Mm.
just like, what I'm sure before he went there, this idea of him actually killing Robert House was, preposterous to him. And he's like, no,
Yes.
I'm like an actor. You know what I mean? I'm not going to murder someone. And now that he's heard this thing from his friend, he knows the stakes. He knows his wife is deadly serious about nuking the world and all this stuff, right? And it's sort of like, yeah, I think I'm going to kill Robert House. He's like, yep, I think that's
Yeah.
not what's going to happen, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, not what I
Yeah.
expected to happen on this trip. I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah, this is I didn't expect to go there, but here
But
we
we,
are. Especially since like we said, he was really expecting to get the sympathetic ear from
yeah,
Charlie. The sympathetic ear of like, "Oh man, that sucks. Don't do
yeah,
that." And Charlie pretty much is telling him, "Listen, you're a soldier first of all, more than anything, and sometimes soldiers have to make the tough decisions, and this is your tough decision, and by the way, this is the decision you should
yeah,
be
yeah,
making."
yeah. It should be
you know
making, and he also points out that sometimes to save people, you have to kill people. You
Yes,
know?
yes. And by the way, take this
Yes.
lighter as a symbol of how you need to set everything on fire and
Oh,
burn it
yeah,
down.
yeah. But I mean, you know what? It stuck in him enough that he's held on to that freaking lighter for 200 years. And I mean,
Yeah.
what an accomplishment, right? I mean, I like lose stuff every day, like
Yes.
pens and things where I'm just like, oh my God, I have to get another one. You know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And here, this guy somehow keeps a lighter for 200 years. That is an accomplishment, okay?
Yeah, no kidding. I agree. I lose pens all the time, and my will to live. But he hung on to that for 200 years.
Yeah,
you know, um, and I'm glad we got the story, the symbol of the lighter, what he uses it for. That it's almost like the memory of that lighter helped him come to that
hmm.
conclusion. You know what I mean? That's what I'd like to
Oh yeah,
think. I'd like to think that you know a lot about the decision to set off
the
those
cast of dynamite.
containers of
Yeah,
dynamite. Now, setting those off was just as much about Charlie as it was about
yeah,
Lucy in that moment. He was more or less honoring the memory of Charlie by doing that more than it was about saving Lucy in any way. Like yes, his cold dead heart is starting to, need her, and she's around and she fulfills a purpose and all that stuff, but you know, he's also, he's honoring his old buddy,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I, I,
Um
I I think if anything, he kind of now needs dog meat in his life. I'm not so sure he needs Lucy yet. I think Lucy is still just like he says. Remember when he's like up on the hill and he's looking through the spyglass and he sees her and she's up on the cross and he's like, well, Lucy McLean, how's that golden rule treating you now? And but then he looks at Dogmeat and Dogmeat kind of looks at him and he's like, I know I don't like her either, but we're gonna need her down the line, and so I think it's not because there's yet any affection. I think it's still just necessity for him
yeah,
that
yeah, I
she's
agree.
an asset that they're going to need for the plan to work,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
but I think that because he is warming up to the dog, that means that it is possible he will eventually warm up to her as well. I especially I think because don't you just get the sense that whenever he finally gets back to his wife, I mean, they're not getting back together,
oh no,
and there's a really big chance that the wife, the mom, has poisoned the child against him already. And I'm not even counting about the fact that he looks like a monster. So if the kid's frozen and she's still like 9, she's gonna be freaked out when she sees him, right?
yeah,
So
yeah, no, yeah,
and so here we have Lucy's her father is lost to her and will never be the same position in her life.
Right.
And here he is, who, unless things really go his way, he's most likely lost his daughter. So maybe
Yes.
there's like a way that they could come together and fill like the void in each other. You know what I mean? It's just like it, and I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying you could see how that could happen. So
Yes. Yes. They're setting it up for that to sort of be the
yeah.
case. Even even if they would never admit it out
Hmm.
loud, they will fulfill some of those emotional areas.
Yeah.
Not just yet. They're not
No.
there yet, but they're setting it up so that they
Yeah. Yeah.
will.
I
So
again, I think it's totally possible. Yeah. So.
yeah,
So
yeah,
so yeah, so then Coop, I just want to talk quickly because Coop goes off and he finds the new California Republic people, and there's like two of them, right?
yes,
And they're like
yes,
isolated, and they give him some more of the medicine, and basically he's going there to see if they will help him, right? Because he's like,
yes,
I'm gonna need help. But before he goes there, he goes into this building and he runs into this Securitron robot,
yep.
Victor,
Victor.
and it's the exact same model of robot that is guarding Thaddeus and
Yes.
all the kids at the bottle cap plant. And the only reason I want to talk about this scene is that um, clearly Coop knows this particular robot. I mean, they like have a history, right? And
Yes.
and he Coop asks the robot about Robert House in Vegas, and is do you know where he is? And the robot's like, oh, Robert House is he's dead. He didn't make it. And Coop is like, well, but that guy, we all know he had contingency plans for everything. And the robot says, yeah, but he needed that fusion thing to make them work, and he never got that. And then he says, and you had something to do with that, right, Coop? And
Yeah.
so again, it's a little juicy little nugget about, oh, okay, so the cold fusion, because again, they didn't have the cold fusion, right? They didn't. He
Nope.
Linus from Lost, he had it at that
Yep.
facility, which was not part of Robert House's organization. It wasn't part of RoboCorp or any of that stuff. So something must have happened in the before time that prevented the cold fusion little glowy blue thing from getting to Robert House. So what do you think that's going to be?
I don't. I don't know. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know. I have no opinion
Yeah.
there.
Well, I mean, I clearly get the sense that we're going to find out that Coop did, surprise, surprise, did not kill him in the before time. You know,
Yes, I think that's going to be
yeah.
clear. But what did he what did
What
he
did
do?
he do? Yes. Did he maybe like have a chance to kill him, but instead, destroyed the cold fusion thingy, or I don't know. Something else happened, and whatever it was heinous enough that his wife, basically said, "Yeah, we're done. We're over. You're never gonna see me or our daughter ever again." And somehow
Yep.
he got locked out of the vault, and then the bombs fell. You know what I mean? Something like that, right?
Yep.
But it's just I like that we're kind they're doling out little clues, little nuggets, if you will, to borrow a
Yeah.
Steve-ism from Stranger Things, um, that are helping to kind of give us. They're not telling us yet, but they're giving us little things that give us our minds chance to go, ooh, I wonder what happened, you know. So,
Yeah.
but I just
Yeah.
wanted to touch on that scene real quick, and of course, I think the NCR troops, the couple that are there, particularly the woman who's in command, she kind of I get him to rethink his cold dead heart a little, in that she kind of points out that they have a history, that the ghoul has obviously worked with the
Mm.
NCR previously, and that things, he's like, why are you guys still here? Because like, don't they say they're like cut off and they can't get
Yes.
reinforced. They can't communicate
Yeah.
with their parent unit, and he's like, why are you guys still here then? Why don't you just
Yeah.
leave? And they're like, we can't. This is like, we're here because we believe in what we're doing, and we're
Yeah.
gonna see this through. We're not gonna
Yeah.
just run away. And again, I know it doesn't hit him on the surface, but I think under the surface it does, and it registers with
Yeah.
him that maybe, to borrow a line um, from Samwise, that there is good in the world, and maybe it is worth fighting
Yeah.
for.
Yeah. I have a question
Okay.
for you. So in season 1, at the end of the season, when Moldaver has Hank, Lucy gets there, the ghoul eventually gets
Hmm.
there, and so does Maximus, whatever. Um, that whole stronghold there at the observatory that she had, was she not? Isn't that the NCR there as well? Wasn't Moldaver's group part of the NCR?
Well, Moldaver's group was part of Shady Waters.
Shady
Shady Sands,
Sands.
sorry, man, I cannot remember
Okay.
that name to save my life. Which was part of the NCR. So
Okay. Okay.
like it sort of like existed in the territory that the NCR was part of.
It makes me want to rewatch the episode with Moldaver in it at the end, the finale, just because I would love to see more like, so if Coop has a history with the NC, and we know he has a history with
Hmm.
Moldaver, but I don't, it just felt very, I don't know, he felt very detached when he came upon Lucy and, you know, and Moldaver, like, Moldaver wasn't, she was still alive when he got there,
Yeah,
right?
because she
I
dies when Maximus gets there, and they've
Correct.
already
So
left. Yeah.
so I just I'm confused by how he acted in that moment. Like, if he has history and she didn't really talk to him, if memory serves. I want to watch it again and maybe get, maybe there's a level there that I missed, or maybe there's a look or a thing she said that could be interpreted.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. I feel like, I don't discount the fact that he had some type of relationship, like that they go way back as the story goes. But I want to know if there was any hint of it in that episode, because I can't remember if there
No, you know what?
was.
My mind is kind of trying to go through the cobwebs and remember. I want to say Maximus shows up. Um, the Brotherhood fights their way through, and Moldaver is injured, and then she talks about, start the cold fusion and all that stuff. The Quaid start the reactor, and then Hank knocks out Maximus and steals his
Right.
armor and then leaves. And after he leaves, then the ghoul shows up. So Moldaver's already dead when Coop gets there, and Coop basically says to Lucy, it's easier to track a stuck pig than to ask it where it's going. And so he kind of
Right.
let Hank get away, type thing. So I don't
Mm,
think Moldaver and the Ghoul ever have any connection. They don't have a scene where they're alive together. I think
okay.
she's already dead before he gets her. But you're right.
Okay.
It is worth a rewatch just to see, because you're right. Because as
Yeah.
we're learning new and more things, it's sort of like, well, wait a minute. Why didn't did he recognize any of those people that were there fighting? Were they all
Exactly.
new California Republic troops? I don't know. That's a very good question. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it all ties together that they were cut off in some way, and they couldn't go to the people that were, that we met in this episode, because they were holed up in that area and couldn't move anywhere. And Shady Sands is what really cut them off, and that was 20 years ago and whatever. But I, I I'm it just, her saying that to Coop makes me really curious to see like what the depths of the relationship are. And like I said, we've already had that backstory with Moldaver, So we know that he has a relationship with her and her group, but I just want to see like where it goes. Like I hope we get more of that. And it's great because we have already seen Moldaver in a couple of flashbacky moments. So like the actress that's involved with her, like I'm glad that we're going to continue to see her a bit. So especially, it's a good thing because she was on the new Sex and the City, which is and Just Like That or whatever. And that show ended. So she's totally available for Fallout. So keep her in there, people. let's keep doing. I know she's dead in the current timeline, but we can keep doing some flashbacks and learn more about Moldaver for sure.
Well, we have to learn how did she survive the 200 years? Because that is still a mystery. Did she find a pod somewhere? She must have, right? It has to be that, but again, we don't know. So I and the fact that they are obviously going to keep doing the before time Coop timeline, so Walton Goggin doesn't have to wear the horrible ghoul makeup the whole time. We're totally going to see more of her without a doubt.
For sure. So he does set so we'll sort of wrap up like the Lucy Coop whatever. It's sort of like the tail end of the Charlie story anyway. So he does negotiate for Lucy's release in the funniest way, because when he shows up and he's got the Caesars in front of him and he's like, away. I think he even says away, motherfuckers. Yeah. Whatever it is.
Oh, whatever it is you call each other or say.
You call each other. It's great. And then he makes his case where he's like, I've got something for you, and you know how it is. If I do something for you, you've got to do something for me. I've got information. And they're like, yeah, or we could just put you on the cross until you give us the information. And he's like, yeah, but, and he really gets his way in there to tell him, like, no.
But what about the location of the last remaining NCR troops? I can give it to you. And like even the Caesar's like, ooh.
Yeah, and I love his line that he says. He goes, now I know the Legion aren't fans of the linear progression of time. And he takes a second and goes, or the soft sea for that matter. And when Coop made that line, when I tell you that that's the loudest I laughed the whole episode, because it's such a throwaway, it's such a dig, it's basically like, you guys are totally fucking stupid.
Oh god, yeah.
Like, you are such dimwits, I can't believe I have to talk to you, but here we are.
Well, but that goes a long way to his line in last episode when he said, you tunics aren't worth saving. Where clearly the girl is part of the Legion. She's part of that group, and
and he knew
that. And that's kind of his slang term for, people that have joined the Legion, which clearly means they're effing stupid.
Yeah, exactly. So, he negotiates for her release by giving them that information. And he's got this great moment where as they're leaving, he sees the barrels that all just say dynamite on them. Because why you would call them something else? I mean, why would you let everybody know, hey, we've got barrels and barrels and barrels and barrels full of dynamite. Just
sitting there. It's no big deal. It's all good.
Just for anybody to blow up,
you know? Right.
And so you see him eyeball them. And when they do that, you're like, oh, come on. That means something's gonna happen. and it does, he set them on fire, some sort of slow burn.
Probably used the lighter.
And it's great because up until you're not quite sure what he did there, like he noticed the dynamite, but is he gonna do anything with it? I also thought the first time I watched it through, I was like, is he gonna do anything with that barrel? Or is he gonna like wait until dark and come back and steal some of the things of dynamite? I thought maybe he was also putting it aside for like, I could use some dynamite down the road a bit,
right.
Who knows? Yep. That was a possibility. But then when the explosion happens, and then, the two different factions of the Legion, they start, shooting at each other. Until that moment happens, you're like, okay, so he's affected by this old story of Charlie, where you sometimes have to do a bad thing in order to do the good thing. And I was like, so is giving up those last two people of the NCR the bad thing, and saving Lucy is the good thing? And I was like, well, that sucks. Like, he's giving them up. They won't know. I mean, they're clearly gonna run right over them. It's two people.
Yeah, right.
And there's, even if just one of those Legion groups goes, it's like, what, 100, 150 people, maybe? And so I was like, he's doing that. That's the bad thing. But then when the explosion happens, he sort of had to decide, okay, in this moment, he's gonna, the Legion is probably gonna kill each other off in this moment. At least you know what I mean?
Oh,
There's gonna be a lot of casualties in this little skirmish that he's created. But it sucks because it's like, I don't really look at that as like doing a bad thing. They needed to be sort of pushed toward the inevitability of them sort of wiping each other out, and it helps out all these other groups to have the Legion not be there, doing these terrible things. So I don't know, it's tough. Like, he was like thinking, I need to do this terrible things to do the good thing, but maybe in his mind maybe saving Lucy is the terrible thing.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think I think actually what I think is that saving Lucy is the good thing, but
Right.
basically kicking, like getting the Cold War between the two factions of the Legion turned into a hot war by blowing up all those kegs of dynamite, because you see them and they're watching from a distance, and like both sides start shooting at each other and attacking, and so I mean they're gonna like destroy each other. It's kind of like the feeling you get from what's happening. That was the terrible thing, was that he basically, I'm gonna have to wipe out all of you people in order to get her away, right? And I love when they're kind of walking away, and Lucy is like, thank you, and he's like, don't thank me yet. And he's like, because I just did something either incredibly stupid or incredibly awful or whatever he says, right? And then she's like, huh? And then the dynamite blows up, right? And you're like, oh, okay. So again, is that a sign though that he's warming? Because he could have just he told them where the NCR guys were. They gave her back to him. He could have just walked away and be like, yeah, those two NCR people, yeah, screw them. They mean nothing to him. But you know what? By blowing that thing up, those guys are going to be fine, because there isn't going to be anyone left to come after them. So,
Yes.
and if anything, they're going to be able to rejoin their unit now, because they're not going to be pinned down by the Legion, because the Legion's going to be pretty much wiped out. So, if anything, he helped them too, so
he did.
Yeah,
he did a couple of good things there.
And
his heart is turning.
I know. So again, it's he's acting very unghoul right now.
Yes, I know. But that's okay. I mean, I'm sure he'll return to his cold dead heart ways as soon as he comes upon, whether it's Robert House or Hank McLean. Once they get to New Vegas, I think things will change. Yes, if he sees Barb or whatever. That'll be terrible. So let's make sure to hit upon the other storyline, obviously, is what's going on with the Brotherhood. And there's a bunch of different scenes that happened that are important to the story, and it's the Brotherhood from the Yosemite. The woman who represents the Brotherhood of Yosemite basically kicks things off with the Brotherhood storyline by saying, "Yeah, I can't do this."
Well,
and they're all reacting to the fact that someone from the Commonwealth came and showed their face. They're like, "Okay, if the Commonwealth knows about this, then I'm out. I can't stay."
And I got the sense that the other two guys, they already left.
Yeah, she's the only
Yeah.
one left.
So yeah, the alliance that he had kind of formed in the previous episode by showing off all the power cores, the fusion cores, that they
Yeah.
were like, ooh, and then once the Commonwealth showed up, they all basically turned tail and ran and said, yeah, we can't fight the Commonwealth. They're too big. It's
Yeah,
too
exactly.
much civil war, too much. And you're right. The Quintus tells the whole story of how the Brotherhood was founded, and that he could have, he saw these people doing these horrible experiments on people, and he killed them all, and then he killed all the people that tried to stop him, and even though it was an act of rebellion, it was a righteous cause, and that made it, God, he chose God over his government, and he's telling this great story, right? And he's really selling it, and it's so great because she's like, yeah, I told you, we don't go into all this religious crap.
Yep.
So it's
Yep.
like
And it's
yeah.
and she makes a good point too. She's like, we don't do the religious stuff, but then she's just like point blank. She's like, just give the relic to the Commonwealth. That's it.
We're not going to fight them. They will crush us, is basically what she says. So yeah, just give them the cold fusion relic, and let's just go back to the way things were, yeah. And so she leaves, and so then Maximus, who's been in the room kind of, in the corner kind of observing, he like steps up and he's like, I could just kill him. And there's like all these like scribes and stuff in the room with Quintus. Like I think there are other clerics, because we get the line from Xander that you guys have a lot of clerics,
Yeah.
he's like I could just kill him, and they all kind of look at him. He's like, I mean, that is kind of what we do here, right? And they all turn to
Yep.
look at Quintus because he ain't wrong, and Quintus just berates him and dresses him down,
Yep.
and talks about the dimness of the sword, and this is why he's just the sword and has should not be involved in any of the decision making, because if we kill him, then there's going to be a war, and you're too dumb to know that, and basically says, get out.
Yeah. It was this really. It was such a terrible dressing down for Maximus, and it's such a stark contrast from the previous episode when he's like, my son,
Yeah.
and now he's like berating him in front of all these other guys, and obviously that's all based off of the fact that everything just slipped away for Quintus, just now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but yeah, such a terrible scene, so sad.
Yeah, you definitely get the sense that Quintus is like, yeah, all of my plans are now toast. And
Yes.
that he's gonna have to give them the cold fusion thing, and that for him that's awful, because he's like, damn it, I wanted that, and
Yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah, I it's great. There's this great, like, sort of like the through line of following Maximus from the beginning of the episode all the way towards the end, and he is just like, he starts out at like the top of his game. The last we saw him, he was being called son. He's considered like a top member of his group. He beat the shit out of this other guy,
right.
and got approval from everybody else that was there, and it just, he's kind of riding high a little bit, and to be dressed down so brutally, and his ideas were not stupid. He was just stating the obvious, like, can't we just do this? Why not? Like, and it's not a dumb idea, just like, he's also young, he's inexperienced, and he doesn't see the whole picture and the nuance of it. But it's not a stupid thing to say. There's plenty of other people that probably would have said the same thing.
Right.
And so he goes from that to feeling terrible to having this great scene with Xander, where Xander's like, he's, Xander is doing his level best to sort of like, he knows that Quintus isn't going to just give him the artifact. He's going to have to get people on his side first before that happens. And Maximus is a good way in, and he does that really effectively by, he sees that he's in a mood, and he's like, yeah, your place is kind of weird, and you've got so many clerics, and it, our, we have clerics too, but they don't have the kind of power your guys do, and and it's really interesting. He makes this really great comment about them, and he's like, what do your clerics do? They stand around, they give speeches, and he's making the point about them, that they're soldiers, and he says, we are the ones who bleed.
Yes.
He said that in the Commonwealth, it's people like you and I that are in charge. So, he's saying, I see that you're frustrated with these guys who don't do anything. They just sort of pontificate and preach, and you do all the work. And I understand. And can I tell you that there's this other place that you could go where you would have more say, you would be more respected, you would be treated. And he says all of those things to him at exactly the right moment, right when Maximus is feeling the lowest and feeling like, oh my God, I really don't have any place in this world. I don't have a place that respects me and sees me for who I am and what it can bring to the table. So he's no dummy, that Xander. He gets there right at just the right time.
Oh yeah. And he also, by the way, he also tells him point blank. He says, "Look, if I don't leave here with the artifact, there's going to be war."
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's like, "And I know you're good, and I know you're like, the top guy here, and I've heard great things about you, but I got to tell you that we're going to be facing off against each other, and that's not going to be easy on you." Saying without saying that, like, you're good, but if you and I have to fight, you're gonna lose. You know what I mean? Sort of like saying, yeah, you're good, but yeah, I'm better. And
yeah,
you don't want that. I don't want that. You know what I mean? I respect you. All of that stuff. You're right. And it's sort of like, Quintus, really bad time to like rip him a new one.
Yeah.
Right, like 2 minutes before all this stuff gets said to him, because if there's ever a moment where Maximus is sort of like considering his options, this is it, right? This is the time where he's like, maybe I should go somewhere else. Maybe this would be a time for me to relocate. And so Xander is appealing to him on like you said, like it's interesting because it's kind of like the Charlie and Coop scene.
Yep.
That you have the two warriors that have been out there, they've been in the action, they've both killed stuff, right? Men, maybe, certainly abominations and things, right? And so they have that kind of bond of, look, I can talk to you because I know you've seen the things I've seen and experienced the things that I've experienced and had to do the things that I've had to do, that people that were never in the military, they just don't get.
Yeah.
That, and Quintus, he doesn't get it. He's like they say, he's not out there on the front lines doing it. He stays behind and does the rah-rah speeches and all that, and so he's really trying to appeal to him of like, look, all of this bloodshed that's coming can be avoided if you guys just give me the thing that I want, and then he tries to kind of sweeten the deal by like, hey, let's go out and kill some stuff.
Yeah. Let's go for a ride. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go have like a little like adventure, a little bromance, a little, Rick and Daryl, stealing the truck from Jesus kind of thing. Where it's like, we'll bond and we'll be even closer, and you'll see I'm a good guy and it's going to be great. And so what does he say? Like, oh, I'll go get my armor. He's like, yeah, don't worry about it. I have like a spare suit. He's like, you guys get spares?
Yeah. He's doing a really good job of like making the Commonwealth seem attractive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so they get up and they fly the vertibird, and they don't even take a pilot with them, because Xander's like, well, come on, I want you, we want to have someone else have all the fun. Let's go. And you can tell that like Maximus, he's like really impressed, and he likes Xander.
Yes. Well, there's a lot there too. It's like Xander is like, he's he's like boastful, but he's not doing it in a way, he's showing strength, but he's not doing it in a way that, Maximus is used to. Maximus is used to a different kind of people, trying to show strength in, they only have strength when they have the armor on. And Xander isn't like that. He's stronger with the armor, but he exudes like strength and like, like he's like, I'm the best there is. But he also does, confidence. But he doesn't do it with arrogance is the thing.
Right.
He's doing it in a way that makes him seem, listen, I'm just telling you the truth. Down to earth, I'm too much for you. But I'm telling you that because I care about you and I don't want something to happen to you. And he takes that to heart, because he just got his heart broken. So he takes that. And then on top of it, he, takes him for a ride. He listens to him. He talks to him. And it doesn't hurt that, like, Xander is an attractive guy who's just, like, he's literally like a poster of, like, what you would use. Xander looks like a recruitment poster for Join the Brotherhood.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He is very charismatic. There's no doubt.
Exactly. So all of that leads to, like, this is a great day for, Maximus's day started out terrible, but it's going great now. Xander, like, sought him out. He singled him out. We're out on a little mission. We're flying around. It's pretty awesome. Oh my God, let's go. He gets like a little signal of some automation. He's like, let's go check it out. And
go kill some stuff.
Yeah, and Maximus at first was like, dude, what do you care? This is like not even in your... He basically does the cop version of, this isn't even your jurisdiction. What do you care?
Yeah.
And he makes the call. He's like, listen, this is why we do what we do. We're supposed to keep the wasteland, safe.
Yeah.
That's our job.
We're the last bit of order. Doesn't he say that if the Commonwealth falls, that'll be the end of everything? Like everything else will fall apart. And yeah, I mean, he lays it on the line. And you're right. It's not. He's not boasting. He's just telling him.
Yes, telling it like it is.
Yeah. You're right. And Maximus is he's eating it up.
Yeah, he totally is. And it's this great moment. He's like, wear my the extra armor and all of that and they sit down and they go to this location and they come face to face with this this robot that is at first it seems like it's a different kind of robot because it's talking about massages and take your towel and all this other stuff, and then it like glitches and it's like and I wonder, is that part of the program to make you think, oh, you're safe, and then they shoots and kills you, or is it like just a true glitch that was happening within the program? I'm not sure it's clear, but it's either way, it glitches in some way, and then all of a sudden it starts shooting at them. And there's this great action sequence, and I love that they used like American music, like Star Spangled Banner style music, as Xander's like running and jumping onto this robot to try and take it down. He takes out this hammer, and you wrote about it. And is that from the game?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely 100% from the game. Yeah, he pulls out a thing, and it's called a super sledge, and it is literally a sledgehammer with a jet engine attached to the back of it. So the hammer part of it, that you actually would use to hit something. Imagine the back end, which normally on a hammer it would be like the claw part of it, right? Instead, it has a jet engine. That when you are going to swing it, you have a trigger on the handle that you hit, and so then as you're getting close to hitting whatever it is you're going to hit, you fire the engine, and it goes that much faster, and it massively accelerates, so it does even more damage. And yeah, it is an actual weapon from the game. You can get it. I think it appeared in Fallout 3 first. But yeah, total thing, looks exactly the same. You know what I mean? So they did their homework, and they made sure it was authentic from the game in terms of it looks and does exactly the same thing. And as soon as I saw it because Xander has it like strung across his back at first. As soon as I saw the yellow handle, I am like, oh, I know what that is. As I'm sure all the gamer nerds were like, oh, I know what that is. And then he takes it out, and he gives it. He's like, hey, you want to try this? And Max is like, oh yeah, thanks. And so Maximus gets it, and they basically turn that robot into like a pile of junk.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good. And it's funny because the makeup of that robot, he's built exactly the same way as Victor.
Yeah.
So when
same model.
Yeah, so when he rolled out at first, I was like, is this Victor? And he's glitching. So I couldn't it's great that they did that, because I wasn't sure where they were at first. Not until they started walking around and they find the kids. But at first I was like, where are they? What have they found? And so when the kids come out, then we get this great scene where it's, he's like, okay, smooth-faced children, you go over there. So you are just like the normal children. You are not ghouls. And then, with the wrinkly faces, you stay right in front of me.
And we should point out he's holding like this massive Gatling gun, machine gun. Yep. That again is a weapon from the game. And yeah, he literally does the line of, you guys just stand right in front of me. Yeah. Just stay right there, And they all separate, and of course Max is like, hey man, what are we doing? I mean, this is they're kids, and he's like, no, they're not. They're little abominations, and then what does he say? He goes, okay, all you smooth-faced kids, close your eyes.
Yeah, and they have clearly been through something bad, but they're all like, okay, and they're all like covering their eyes. I'm like, oh God.
Oh yeah, you're just like, and Max is like, no, don't do this, and Xander's like, nope, it's in the codex, we got to eliminate all the abominations. That's like part of our our whole reason for doing this, right?
Yep.
And so then Max, of course, then Thaddeus shows up.
Yeah, Thaddeus pops out.
And he's like, well, he's like, I'm in charge here, and these are just kids, and you don't have to do this. And he's just like, yeah, but you're a ghoul too, and so he's and he's gonna just open fire and just kill all these, as we said, like 7 to 12-year-old children and Thaddeus, right? Yeah, exactly. That are all just, and they're not trying to kill him. I mean, this is just cold-blooded murder. And of course, Max recognizes Thaddeus at this point, so he knows. So not only is it going to be children, but it's somebody that he knows. Yeah. And so then he does. I think again, the lesson of the episode is sometimes you got to do something bad, to save people. That you think are worth it. And so he knows that if he kills Xander, that there's going to be a civil war, right? That it's gonna be bad for everyone. But he makes that decision of, what, I'm going to kill him because it's going to save all these kids. And he brings that hammer down and just caves in his helmet. And I mean, yeah, he's dead. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed your 1.5 episodes of Kumali, that I mean, because he dead.
Yeah, he gone.
He no coming back. Yeah.
Oh well.
It was yeah. And so he dies, and so then he pops up his faceplate, and Thaddeus recognizes him, and so I again, just a way to end the episode, I think, on a really kind of a funnier, lighter note. Thaddeus is like, hey man, what have you been up to? And Maximus goes, I think I just started a war. And Thaddeus then goes, okay, yeah, well, I'm the floor manager here, so it sounds like we both have a lot going on right now.
It was just such a great way. And then it's just like, and then it closes off, and there's this really neat moment, couple of moments in the episode where Xander's thing that he says, like Maximus a couple of times, he's like, gee whiz, and obviously Lucy's just okie dokie. He keeps saying hot dog. And that's the song that closes out the episode, is like, hot dog, hot diggity dog. This 50s song. It's good.
It's Bill Haley in the Comets.
Yeah, exactly.
It's one of their other hits, besides everyone, knows Bill Haley in the Comets for Rock Around the Clock.
Yes.
The Happy Days song, right? But they had a bunch of hits, and that was another one that got a lot of airplay back then. Yeah, it was a wonderful way to end the episode, because you're right. Several times in the episode, Xander's like, hot dog.
Yeah.
And he's just like, let's go. He's like, oh yeah, yeah. And then I wanted to ask you too, did you notice the little animation we got at the end?
Yes.
It was like the launch site of Robert House's weapon system.
Yes, I did
right
notice
outside
that.
of Las Vegas. I thought that was really interesting that we see that too.
And
and
that's always been a really good precursor for you're gonna see some of this. This is gonna figure in some way in the next episode. So pay attention to this and you'll see.
Yes. Yeah.
So I thought it was great. I'm looking back over my notes, and I think I hit all of the stuff I wanted to talk about. What about you?
Well, let me just, the story's wonderful here. Let me just go through I dropped all my notes. Yeah. No, I you know what, I do. I think I hit all my points too. Again, a great episode. It was 49 minutes, and it shoots by.
Wow. Yeah. That's a quick one. Yeah.
Yeah. It is, but it's always a good sign, right?
Yes.
That when you start watching the episode and you're like, oh, this is going to be an hour, and then seemingly 2 minutes later, the hour's over.
Yeah.
And you're just like, wow. And so, so many funny moments, some great lines. And I think the narrative hasn't quite kicked in, because we're still kind of trying to get to New Vegas, right?
Yes.
But hey, they're still doling out the before time storyline and filling in some of the gaps and stuff, and setting it up. And I'm just enjoying it immensely so far.
I agree. This is another one of those, for a show that was 49 minutes, we talked for 2 hours about it, but we could have gone further, because there's just so many funny moments in that episode. And I'm loving this series, but this is the first episode where seeing those, that, the animation at the end, I'm dying for Wednesday for the new episode. I can't wait to see how we get some sort of bit of that in the episodes. I'm super excited for that. Super excited. All right. Well, folks, you know the drill. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to discuss our listener feedback and everything that's coming up next on the podcast.
So everyone, please stick around, because we won't lose our notes. We promise. And we'll be right back.
The following is an emergency action message. Civil authorities have identified a biological threat that they deem credible. This threat could potentially affect the entire continental United States.
The dead are returning to life and attacking the living.
911, what's your emergency?
There's a man off bed and he's attacking another man. Looks like he's biting him, on the arm.
The initial signs are puzzling, unclear.
Getting pulled out of their cars and thrown to the ground. It looks like the bus passengers are biting their victims.
Soon, however, the reality is clear and undeniable.
The crisis involving the recently dead continues. Parliament today passed a law that requires all bodies of the recently deceased to be registered and turned
Toxic
over.
Bag Productions has captured the sounds of the zombie apocalypse and brought them to your gaming table. Background ambiences, zombie attacks, and radio transmissions that set the scene for your modern zombie adventure. Download MP3s from drivethrurpg.com or toxicbag.com.
Hi, this is Tom Savini, and you're listening to the Aim for the Head podcast with Diana and Steve. And don't forget to always aim for the head, because body shots just don't work.
Hey everybody, we're back. We're going to go ahead and jump right into our listener feedback. We are pretty excited. We got some feedback this week from multiple sources. Hello. Yay! So first off, we did get some feedback from Erica Price, who obviously I fell on my sword last week because I missed her episode.
You did.
Here's what's funny. I missed her episode 1 feedback via the email, and then she missed being able to send us feedback last week. So she actually has I'll be reading her feedback for episode 2, and then she also sent along some feedback for this week's episode as well. So first up is her feedback from episode 2, and she says, "Oh, Diana, we aren't perfect. I forgive you for missing my email."
Aww.
That's so sweet. Thank you, Erica.
Golden rule, mother forker.
Golden rule. So she goes on to say, "Hank, you're a bad, bad man. The scene showing younger Hank literally washing his hands of the bombing of Shady Sands really cements in my mind what a terrible person he is." I know, I had the same reaction.
Yep.
I don't blame Lucy's mother, and she puts in parentheses, Rose, ? And I think that's right. It's Rose, right? Is the mom's name?
I thought that was her name, yeah.
Yeah. I don't blame Lucy's mother for leaving with Lucy and Norm. This docking and dismounting process of the vertibirds is super cool. I guess Coop better find another stash of stim packs. Yeah, or wait until this week when he just carves that section of his leg.
Yeah,
out.
he did. It's pussy. Yeah. It's fine.
It's fine. It's pussy, but it's clean. It's done. She continues on and says, "These thawed out overseers crack me up. Ooh, Area 51. Oh boy, Lucy should have given Coop the stim pack. You think? Golden rule, motherfucker." Yeah, that didn't work out so well for her. Hopefully he can find her and get her out of this mess. Now that Norm has escaped, what is he going to do? And this is an interesting observation, and I kind of agree with it. She says, it didn't seem like he thawed out all of the buds, though. That cryo chamber looked like it held hundreds more. And I think she's right. I think that there were more pods, but keep in mind, there clearly had to be a pod for, obviously Hank's was empty. And I'm sure there are other pods, like
Betty had one.
Betty had a pod. I'm sure
Stephanie.
Yes, Stephanie did. Anyone else that they've and maybe there were other people that have died throughout the years. Who knows? So I agree. There probably were more pods, but I'm not sure how full they were at the time that Norm did the defrosting. So, yeah.
Yeah. You're right. The way when we get the long shots, it does look like it kind of goes off into the distance, kind of like that Indiana Jones warehouse kind of a look, right?
Yes.
And the pods just keep going, so you do get the sense that, oh my God, there could be thousands of people there, type thing. But I don't know. It seemed to me that he was waking everybody up. So my thought, I guess, would be that he did, and that was more of like an illusion, like you said, like they were there, some of them were empty, some of them had already, people had already gotten out of, that type of thing. But maybe not. Maybe there are more of them. We don't know.
We shall see. But thank you for your forgiveness, Erica. I appreciate it.
Yes, I did not forgive her, so she is still on my list, Erica. I just want you to know that. So
whatever.
Anyway. Whatever. All right. So moving along, Erica turned around and gave us feedback for this week's episode too.
Yay!
So how about that? So yeah, and unlike other people on this podcast, I'm going to read it at the relevant time. How about that?
Nice. Thanks.
I know. Got to get it in there. Okay. So for episode 3, she goes, "Yay, Thaddeus! But where did he get all these kids?" And then she goes, "Macaulay Culkin? This is hilarious." And then she goes, "There's 2 factions literally right next to each other and they can't decide on a new leader?" This is very stream of conscious kind of notes here. I love it.
Yes, I love it.
She goes, "Lucy sure is in a pickle up on that cross. Hopefully the ghoul isn't too mad." Yeah, well, we said, he decided he doesn't really like her, but he still needs her, so he's gonna go get her. Xander and Maximus together is pure fun, and it looks like Maximus might be joining the Commonwealth. Ghoul is a little careless with those free vials, dropping one and not even noticing. Yeah, I noticed that too. When she opens that little metal box and gives him the vials, he just kind of scoops them out, and one
Yep.
of them clearly falls to the ground, and he
Yeah.
doesn't. And you think that stuff's like gold, right? I mean, it's like, oh my God, it's gonna keep you alive. You get everyone you can, but
Yes.
he doesn't. He's just like, nope, I'm good. So yeah, good catch there. Um, Whoops, I was wrong about Xander and Maximus.
Yep.
Yeah. Almost as if like something hammered a new point of view.
Oh, snap. See what you did there.
I've been working on that one all day.
Yeah, I can tell.
He goes, is Maximus so delusioned with the Brotherhood that he'll join Thaddeus in his factory? Maybe. It's an
Maybe.
interesting idea. Although I kind of think that Dane is correct that you can't leave the Brotherhood, and so he'll have to go back and fess up to what he done. She goes on to say, "What is the end goal for Hank and these mind control units?" That's a good question. Yeah, what is he gonna do with them? And where will Norm and his new friends end up? Hoping to get answers to these next week. You know what? I think we're going to jump back to those storylines. So I don't know if they're going to get the answers you want, but I think we'll definitely get some more information,
Yeah.
about those two. And that is a good question. Other than the end goal with Hank and the mind control units to get into the good graces of House.
Yep.
I'm not sure what if he has a specific use for them. Is he going to like create a little army of people that will protect him, that'll be his minions? I don't know. I mean, I at this point I think he's doing the research to do the research so that he can prove to the powers that be that he one can get his promotion like he said, and two, he adds that line of like, you'll be begging to work with me.
Yeah.
So I don't know though. That's an interesting question about what is his end goal with those things, and I think we need a little more info.
I agree. More info to come, hopefully.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you, Erica, for writing in. Amazing feedback
Yep.
as always, and keep throwing your thoughts at us because we do love to see them.
Yeah. When we actually,
Hey,
pay
you know
attention
what?
and actually receive them. Yeah.
That's only half the podcast.
Yeah,
okay?
exactly. That's only me. So next up, we did receive some feedback from our pal Karen, not related to Lauren Cohen.
Hello, Karen.
Who is late to the game because, as she said on a posting she saw over the holidays, she wasn't aware we were going to cover it and she was all excited. So, hooray! Thanks, Karen. So Karen wrote in via the Facebooks, and she said in regards to episode 3, hot dog.
Hot dog.
A little child labor never hurt anyone. Well, yeah, maybe. Well, who knows? Thaddeus is so funny. I hope he shows up again. Macaulay Culkin, what? I wonder what the ghoul had to do with House and the cold fusion back in the day.
Me too.
I know. The way Maximus ran toward the plane after learning there is spare armor, how the hell are they cut off from reinforcements? For the NCA, obviously.
For the NCR.
NCR. The ghoul and Lucy have been walking all over the place. She's worried about being captured after over a decade? Pretty sure the ghoul dropped one of those little bottles, but the ghoul, oh my god,
The ghoul,
pretty
yeah.
sure the ghoul dropped one of those little bottles she gave him. Yes, Thaddeus, what's up, man? Glad to see he's back, and cheers. I agree. I think that the number one question on everyone's minds is what was Coop's involvement with the cold fusion thing?
Yes,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Because clearly I only was thinking that he was involved with like Moldaver's group and with trying to, figure out what Barb is up to. Like I felt like his was more like personal stuff, like personalities and personal, like person to person stuff. I didn't think he had anything to do with any of the scientific aspects with the cold fusion or anything else. So I'm dying to see how this all pans out.
Yeah, like my first thought when Victor the robot kind of threw that very cryptic didn't you have something to do with that back then, Coop? That
Mm.
line. My first thought, just, because I've seen upwards of 15 movies, so I have some, experience in this. Um, my thought was Coop had we went to kill him, and ultimately decided he couldn't do that, but instead of killing him, he felt, if I destroy the cold fusion thingy, that will foil their plans, because they can't nuke the world then, because they don't have that and they need that. That's, Moldaver has told him at the diner and a couple other places that that's key to his plan. That's why they bought her company out, so they could get it, specifically. And so he destroys the cold fusion, and back in the before time, and rather than killing him. That was my first thought, just based on having seen a ton of movies and knowing how the narrative is structured and things like that. That would make sense as a possibility. But
Yeah.
again, I'm saying that with no knowledge, no spoilers, nothing. That's just a gut feeling from me of like, well, they could go that way, that he smashes it and destroys it, and it's not until 200 years later that Michael Emerson and his research group are able to recreate it in the lab and,
Right.
and get it going again, that
Right.
kind of thing. But we'll have to see. Again, I'm just like you guys. I want to know, because something obviously happened.
Yeah. I'm also dying to know what Michael Emerson's was that part of the Brotherhood where he was?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
That was another group.
Yeah, so I'm
that
curious to see how that all pans out too. Like he developed the cold fusion, or they did, and it's like who had it? Like, because he snuck it out of there to
Right.
get to Moldaver. So that's all very, seeing the the growth and the genesis of the cold fusion is going to be a really interesting storyline. Is all I'm saying. So
I agree.
it's a lot of layers there.
Yeah.
Next up on the podcast, next week we're going to be talking episode 4, which once this episode drops, it'll be in your hands about 24 hours after this episode drops. So, listen to this and then go to Amazon Prime.
Hard to believe we're already halfway.
I know, it's unbelievable. They have released a few more episode titles, so I've at least got that. So next week's episode is titled The Demon in the Snow. Dun dun dun! And I have no idea what that means. But we shall see very soon, in like 48 hours of us. So
That's pretty cool.
I know, I'm very, very, very excited, especially since there's lots of other things that we're streaming over the holidays. Stranger Things. So now we're sort of back to just having Fallout. So I will be like first in line on Wednesday evening to watch. When I get finished with work, I will definitely be watching right away, or maybe before I'm finished with work. We'll see.
Whatever works out. Whatever
Listen,
comes first.
if you go to the bathroom enough times, you can bring your phone in with you. You can probably get the whole episode done. Is what I'm saying.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
I know.
What happened
Anyway,
to you, Diana? It
I
used to be
know.
about the music.
I used to. Now, not so much. There were a couple of things, I don't know if you're aware, but Stranger Things happened over the holidays, Christmas and New Year's, so that's all finished. So hopefully folks have watched and have thoughts that they are ready to share. We are planning, when we're finished with Fallout, which will be, another 4 or 5 weeks from now. When we're finished covering Fallout, we're going to start from Stranger Things, episode 1 for season 5, from the beginning, and we'll take it all the way through. So, if you haven't watched them yet, what are you waiting for?
There you go.
There were a couple of other things, and there's some stuff coming up soon, but have you had a chance to watch the new Knives Out movie yet?
I have seen it.
You have? Okay. That's
Yes.
on my list of things to do this weekend, since I now have no holiday responsibilities whatsoever this coming weekend. Uh, we literally, because side story is that my mother-in-law had some surgery on New Year's Eve, and so majority of the holiday festivities happened at my house. I am so tired of seeing people that I am.
Hey, you're starting to think like me.
I'm ready to be a hermit, let me just say. So I'm looking forward to having some time with nobody bothering me. And Knives Out, I think, will be part of that as well. So hopefully by next episode, I'll be able to chat about what I thought of it.
Yeah, it's there's been 3 of them so far.
Yeah.
And my quick thought, the first one is still the best.
Yes.
But this one is better than the second one.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well. Yeah.
And I would say that this one has the best mystery of the 3. In that it kind of starts out and it's like one of those like locked room murders.
Oh.
Where there's just no way for the killer to kill the person based on how the body's found. That one of those kind of deals, right? And the classic example is, you find the murder, the victim is in a room that the door's locked and the lock's on the inside. And that's the only way in and out of the room. So the question is, how did the killer murder the person and then get out if the door's locked? That kind of thing. So
I like that.
And yeah, and amazing cast. Josh Brolin is amazing in it, and obviously Daniel Craig is great as LeBlanc, and it's just super fun. Glenn Close is freaking great, and Jeremy Renner's in it, and Thomas Hayden Church, if you remember that dude from Wings, and some of the stuff that he's done. So yeah, it's a one, just like all of them. It's got a great cast, and they have a really good time with it. And like I said, I still kind of think the first one's the best one so far, but I really like the mystery of this one. I thought this was really cool. So
I'm really looking forward to it because I've heard exactly the same thing from a bunch of other people as well. So I'm really, really excited to watch it.
I watched that, and then I also watched One Battle After Another.
Yeah.
Which is the Paul Thomas Anderson movie with Leo DiCaprio, and it is like almost 3 hours long, so it's a long movie, but it is really good.
Yeah.
And I would be very surprised if Sean Penn does not get an Oscar nomination for supporting actor, because he is just phenomenal in this movie. So, and it's a dark comedy. There are some laugh out loud moments in it, and just slapsticky kind of stuff that happens it's just really good. So that's on HBO. So if you've got, like I said, it's a time commitment because it's like 4 hours, 3 hours long. But if you got the time and you're interested, I highly recommend you check that out, because in about 2-3 months you're going to be hearing that name a lot, because it's going to be up for a lot of awards.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. I did see an advertisement today for something I wasn't aware was going to happen, but I guess next week, on the 12th, Netflix is going to release, they did, why wouldn't you? They did a documentary on the filming of the final season of Stranger Things, which makes all kinds of sense. So that'll release next week. I will, of course, watch it.
Of course.
So make sure you watch the actual season before you watch the documentary. But if you haven't made it to the season yet, just make sure when you're finished that you're going to have this to watch as well. So clear some time in your schedule.
From what I understand, there's some wonderful behind the scenes footage of all of the kids from the show, and they're like with their children in real life. It's wonderful.
That's funny. I love it. And also, I hadn't mentioned it before, but we're coming up on the release date. We're getting another 28 years later.
Yes, we
are. This is a
are.
continuation of the story that released around this time last year. This is now the Bone Temple. So we're continuing some of Ray Fiennes' story, it looks like. And there's been some critical acclaim so far that this is an incredible horror movie. So I don't know. We shall see, but I'm very excited for that story to continue. I really, really liked 28 years later. I thought it was a really great movie, and I'm looking forward to this continuation.
Yes. And yes, one thing you said is absolutely true, and that is we will see.
Yes, absolutely. Anything else we should chat about before we wrap this week up?
No, I don't think so. Like you said,
Yeah.
we got the holidays behind us, so things are gonna kind of calm down on that front, and we'll get into the routine of winter.
Yes.
Super fun.
Oh.
But hey, we've got 5 weeks of Fallout to go, and then we've got 8 weeks of Stranger Things to jump into, and who knows, by that point we might have some Dead City or some Dune season 2, Prophecy season 2, or whatever. I mean, we got all kinds of stuff opening up here for the coming year. So yeah, it's gonna be. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a fun year.
I agree. Well, that is going to wrap it up for us this week, folks. We look forward to chatting with you next week as we continue our coverage, Fallout Season 2. But until then, as always, I am Diana.
And I'm Steve.
Don't forget to always aim for the head.
Because those body shots, they just don't work.
To send us an email, write us at aimfortheheadpodcast@gmail.com. And our Twitter handle is @AFTH Podcast. Pictures and video are always welcome at our Instagram account, Aim for the Head Podcast, all one word. But the best way to keep in touch with us is to just like our Facebook page to get all of our updates in your feed.
Wow, that was a very quick going.
I'm a stage manager. Nobody goes to the bathroom faster than stage managers.
I don't know, man. I mean, you just like it was like I heard you, get up and leave, and then I was just like, she's already back. Whoa.